The Oracl3 Network.
We have an active shooter. We have an active shooter inside the warehouse.
Welcome to Active Shooter, a podcast that covers the whys, the hows, and the aftermath of active shooter and mass casualty events.
They have an active shooter in the building. A second call says they are being attacked.
I've been shot. 1692 means we got shots fired at 4:15 a.m. Route 291. Sounded like an automatic firearm.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
active shooter mass casualty incidents.
Thank you for listening.
You are listening to Active Shooter, a podcast that may contain adult themes, explicit language, and graphic depictions of violence. Portions of this show may be traumatic for those under 18. Listener discretion is advised.
There are at least 7 dead, 3 wounded tonight after a shooting in a small California religious university. Oakland police say they have a suspect in custody. The shooting erupted this afternoon at the Christian school in Oakland called Oikos University.
As you may have noticed, many of these cases we have covered on this podcast have an ending where the shooter ends their life in an act of suicide. Although rare, sometimes the shooter is captured and lodged in the county jail to await the judicial process. Today's case is a bit different, because the shooter was found not competent to stand trial. Dr. Jessica Ferranti testified at a competency hearing that the shooter suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, believing that the administrators at Oikos University set up cameras in his home to spy on him, as well as a tracking device on his car to know his every move. The shooter was taken to a psychiatric facility, where he was medicated and brought to competency to stand trial. In today's episode, we will discuss how the mental health system impacts an active shooting tragedy.
Active Shooter, the podcast, is a High Five Holly production, and I'm your host, JT. If you've listened to our prior episodes, you know that the Active Shooter podcast team has taken the No Notoriety pledge, and we will not be sharing the real name of the shooters that we cover. We will be giving the shooters a pseudonym and refer to them by that name throughout the episode. This will help in clearing up any confusion in the story while remaining true to our pledge and not naming the shooter by their actual name. In today's episode, we will be referring to the shooter as Leon.
Monday, April 2nd, 2012 was a typical spring day in Oakland, California. It was partly cloudy with temperatures in the low 60s. Oikos University is a very small Korean Christian college with only around 100 students. The college is located at 7901 Oakport Street in Oakland, California, at the Airport Business Park, which is located near the Oakland International Airport. 43-year-old Leon voluntarily decided to drop out of the university the previous November, though the reasons are somewhat unknown. What is known is that Leon had an axe to grind with the administrators at the school. He was determined to scare the administrators and send a message to them. On the morning of April 2nd, 2012, Leon took a Bay Area rapid transit train towards the school, and then an AC transit bus, which is another transit system in the Bay Area. There are surveillance videos that show Leon walking towards the school at 10:27 a.m. Wearing a baseball hat, blue jacket, and khaki pants, Leon entered the university doors. He was met at the front desk by 24-year-old receptionist Kathleen Ping. He grabbed Kathleen with one arm around her neck and told her to be quiet. If she was quiet and didn't scream, he wouldn't kill her. Leon burst through the back door of a nursing room classroom with his hostage Kathleen, and in the other hand was a pistol. He told everyone, quote, "Get in line. I'm going to kill you all." The students were in the middle of taking a test and weren't sure if this was some kind of sick joke or even a drill. To prove that he absolutely wasn't joking, Leon shot Kathleen and dropped her to the ground.
When the gunman entered the school, he did take a hostage. He was looking for a specific administrator who was not there. When he entered the classroom, he directed the students to line up against the wall. Before they had a chance to do that, he started shooting the students.
Running on pure adrenaline, Kathleen was able to stagger back to the reception desk and call 911.
The shooter is going to be a male Korean, about 40 years old, 5'5", heavy build.
Back in the classroom, Leon started shooting the victims, some at point-blank range. Whether he got spooked by the approaching sirens, or he determined that his job was done, we will never know.
During our class, I heard like gunshots, and then like more than five, and then first time when I heard it, I thought it's like firework or like it's just joking. And then my teacher went outside, and then he says like one woman told them like somebody has a gun, run.
He had left 7 people, 6 students, and 1 professor dead. An additional 3 were injured. At 10:32 a.m., Leon stole keys from Charing Ringsing Butia, one of the victims that he just killed.
I just heard more gunshots. A lady came out running and she had blood on her arm, but I didn't know how bad the wound was. She took off her jacket and she had a big old hole in her arm.
Leon had fled the school in the stolen Honda before Kathleen was able to make the initial 911 call, which came through at 10:33 a.m. The entire incident happened so fast. As he ran from the school, he continued firing.
We heard probably about 6 gunshots. I looked outside the door of the classroom and somebody said, "He's got a gun."
Leon drove to a Safeway supermarket located in Alameda, California, which was only about 5 miles away from the school. While sitting in the stolen vehicle in the parking lot of the supermarket, Leon called his father and informed him what he had done. His father told him that he needed to turn himself in and let someone know he was the shooter. Leon walked into the supermarket and told employees that he just shot people at Oikos University.
You know, he didn't even look that tall. He was maybe about 5'9", had his beanie. He looked like he was cooperating with the police. He looked a little bit, I thought maybe he could have been under the influence, shoplifting, because he was a little sedated. He was just standing there.
The employees immediately contacted police, who responded and took Leon into custody.
We just received information that we believe we detained a possible suspect who's responsible for the shooting today. Again, that's just a detention. We do believe that this person may be responsible for the shooting, and that's what we're following up with. Our investigators and our officers are looking into the details of that right now. And that's all that I can say.
Meanwhile, back at the school, the police were met with complete carnage. Later, investigators would praise the students and teachers for immediately going into action when the sound of gunfire was heard. Everyone went into lockdown mode by locking their classroom doors and remaining quiet. Various students even barricaded the entrance doors so if the shooter came back, he wouldn't be able to re-enter the building. Because of this, police had to break windows in order to gain entry into the school.
Officers found several victims throughout the classroom, throughout the building. There were several people hiding in locked buildings, locked doors, behind desks.
As they entered the building, one SWAT member later testified that he heard a very faint moan for help. It was the receptionist, Kathleen Ping. She was shot in the stomach and she was fading, fast. 2 officers came running in to help and put Kathleen in an office chair as she was wheeled out of the building. She was rushed to the hospital where she was pronounced dead. Police continued clearing the school and helping those that could still be helped. Police found 40-year-old Doris Jabuko laying in a pool of blood. She didn't have any vital signs, but when they turned her over on her back, she made a loud gasping noise, making officers immediately start administering CPR. After trying for over 10 minutes, there was no luck. Doris was not coming back. She was remembered as a hero, for she pushed others out of the classroom and risked her life to save others. In the classroom, desks had been flipped over to use as makeshift shields, and there was blood everywhere. One of the walls in the classroom had a huge hole in it, as if someone either ran through the drywall or fell through it. Police started going from classroom to classroom and escorting terrified students and faculty out of the building.
There was many gunshots, probably like 6 gunshots. So I went back in the classroom and evacuated the students and got everybody out. As we were leaving, we heard more gunshots.
The median of Edgewater Drive became the spot where the deceased victims were brought out and covered with a sheet, almost like a makeshift morgue. An armored vehicle was parked in front of the school to provide protection to the students and teachers as they were evacuated. There were about 35 people inside the school at the time of the shooting. 5 total victims died at the scene. An additional 5 victims were taken to the hospital, where another 2 victims died. Some of the victims were taken to the local hospital to be treated, while others were treated at the school. Charing Rinsing Bhutia was 38 years old when he was killed. He had migrated to the United States from a location deep in the Himalayan mountains. He worked nights as a janitor at the airport and was taking nursing classes during the day. He was loved by many and will be deeply missed. 40-year-old Doris Chibuko was described as a gentle soul. She was born in eastern Nigeria and was the second of 6 children. Before moving to the United States in 2002 with her husband, she was a lawyer in Nigeria. Doris was 8 months into her new career path of nursing and worked part-time at Via Fairmont Mental Health Rehabilitation Center as a mental health worker. Doris loved her 4 daughters, who were ages 14, 6, 5, and 3 when they lost their mother. Family and friends stated that Doris was a very, very kind person. Friends and family of 33-year-old Sonam Chedon stated that nursing was the perfect career for her, and she was made to be a nurse. She was so caring and devoted much of her life to volunteer work. About 2 years prior to losing her life, Sonam worked for the Tibetan Department of Education for about 5 years. On the day of the shooting, Sonam's husband had boarded a flight to India to visit family. Once he landed, he heard of the terrible tragedy and the death of his wife. He immediately reboarded a plane and flew back to the United States. She loved babysitting for her 2 young nieces and was looking forward to becoming a mother someday. She was only 2 months shy of graduating as a licensed vocational nurse. Grace Yoon-hae Kim was 23 years old when she lost her life. She graduated from Foothill High School in 2007. She was recently working as a waitress at BJ's Restaurant and Brewery in Newark, California, while taking nursing classes. 24-year-old Kathleen Ping showed true colors of bravery when she left this earth on that fateful day as she made the initial 911 call. Kathleen was the breadwinner and caretaker of her extended family, as well as her 4-year-old son. As the family came together to mourn the death of their loved one, Kathleen's son was confused as he went around asking others why everyone was crying and so sad. It seemed no one knew just how to tell the little boy that his mommy was not coming home. In March 2007, Kathleen moved to the United States with her mother, 2 little sisters, and brother from the Philippines. They were coming to the States to join Kathleen's father, who had moved years prior and petitioned for his family to join him. Kathleen's husband, and her son's father, still lived in the Philippines at the time of her death. He was waiting to hear about his own petition to join his family in the United States. At the time of the airing of this episode, it is unknown whether he was ever able to join his family or see his son. 53-year-old Judith Seymour was working as a senior tax analyst before she was laid off and decided to follow her dreams of becoming a nurse. Her parents, who were both from Guyana, were nurses in New York, and before becoming a tax analyst, Judith worked as a certified nursing assistant. She was only about 2 months away from graduating with her nursing license. Her partner of 8 years reported she was so excited and proud of herself for going back to school. She was very down to earth, and everyone that met her loved her instantly. The youngest of the victims, 21-year-old Lydia Sim, was also studying nursing when she was killed. She had big dreams of working with children and becoming a pediatrician. Lydia lived in Hayward, California with her mom, dad, and 19-year-old brother. She was planning on becoming a licensed vocational nurse in the university's 1-year program. Lydia was very happy and outgoing and absolutely loved kids. Anytime she would walk into a room, the children would just gravitate towards her.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
mass casualty incidents.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
mass casualty incidents.
As stated before, Oikos University is a very small school located in Oakland, California. The university was founded in 2004